buying that building. It was like, it wasn't the easiest thing because I really just had just enough money to
Yeah.
do that. Like, once the sale, closed on the sale and everything, uh, just suddenly went from Bank Street Hostel to Apple Hostels, and started letting people in. And as we took money, from guests and stuff, that we used that to go buy stuff for the hostel, kind of thing. Buy furniture.
Hello, friends and travelers. Thanks for listening. You are riding along on the Hostel Road Trip Podcast. Our mission is to spread awareness of the true hosteling experience in the Americas and share stories from the fascinating hosts who create those unique facilities. I'm your host, Jimmy Black, joined alongside co-founder of International Travelers House, Bobby Dyer. Each session, we sit down with hostel operators or travel influencers to hear about their road to success, discuss trending hostel topics, and close with tips for travelers who are seeking to have the ultimate experience when visiting each destination. You can't afford to miss this trip. Now fasten your seatbelts and let's hit the road.
Welcome back to the Hostel Road Trip Podcast. It's been a little while, but it's going to be worth the wait as we have an OG Jedi Knight, Marc Desmarais from Apple Hostels. Thank you so much for joining us, Marc.
Thanks for having me.
And I am Jimmy Black, along with my co-host, Robert Dyer, as always. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jimmy. Thanks for coming on, Marc.
Yeah, so let's dive into it. And here we go. And I want to go into a time machine, Marc, because you've got a lot of experience, and I won't keep making references to your age.
I appreciate that. Yeah, your time machine is going to need a lot of juice. We're going to go way back.
But I want to go back to when you started in hostels. Now, I know, as you know, all three of us actually on this call, we all came from the USA Hostels tree. And maybe give us a little bit of how that started. Was that your first hostel experience or first hostel job?
It was my first hostel job. Yeah. Well, no, actually, no, it wasn't. Actually, so yeah, I started as a volunteer. I wound up in Hollywood, and I really didn't know anything about hostels. And a friend of mine gave me I think it was Let's Go. And you said, you're going to be in LA for a while. You should think about, look at this book. It recommends hostels and stuff. So got to California and just picked, I forget the name of it, but it was on Hollywood Boulevard. I thought that sounded cool. And so I went to this hostel, first time being in it, and it was a really bad hostel, but I was like, I had no idea what hostels were like. I guess this is what hostels are like. They're just really bad. They're great. Like the shower tubs were all rusted bottoms, kind of thing. They had like rubber mats so you wouldn't cut your feet on the rust kind of thing. And, not very clean. It wasn't much of the common area was a tiny room, kind of thing with a TV in it, tiny kitchen and stuff. And just dirty and stuff. And like, okay, well, that's what hostels are. Cool. Whatever. And then I met some another couple that were at the hostel, and they're going to be in LA for a bit too. And they were from Australia, and they wound up moving over to USA Hostels, and they said you should come over. And so at the first hostel, I was doing a few overnight shifts at one point to cover my stay. So that was my first volunteering experience in hostels. Was actually at that first hostel.
Do you remember the name of it?
No, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was like it's almost right across from the Man's Chinese Theater.
Okay.
Anymore, but it was actually right across from this other old movie theater, which I can't remember of, but more of a name of. But anyway, whatever. But it was like that end of Hollywood Boulevard, and not too far from La Brea. Anyway, so I they went over to USA Hostels on Hawthorne, just like a block away or whatever. And so I went over there, and I was like, wow, this is a nice hostel. Like, this is way nicer than I was like, oh, I guess not all hostels are crappy, kind of thing. And so checked in there, and then they're looking for people to work reception and stuff. So I volunteered there, and then not too long after, they needed a manager. The manager they had there was having some issues and stuff. So I talked to the owner, David Reuter.
Yeah.
We went for a run together, and I'm like, I really think you should replace this guy. This guy should not be running your business, And I said, look, I've got a lot of managing experience, not in hostels, but I can, I know my way around kind of thing. And so that's how I started managing the place, and then we started expanding. And then as we expanded, we opened a newer, bigger hostel in Hollywood. We already had location in San Diego, and then we're expanding to Las Vegas. So I took over the operations of the whole kind of chain. And then we expanded to, we also got a little hostel in Kanab, Utah, not too far from the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, and San Francisco, kind of thing. So, it was exciting, like expanding and opening these new places and everything.
And that was actually when Bob was saying that you were able to do this. I was curious to hear about that because you were there during such a cool time period at USA Hostels. We were there at the end when it had already been there for 20 years, and we heard about these locations like the Grand Canyon one and the Las Vegas, but those were already gone by the time we got there. So that's really cool that you got to get in there and then see that growth and expansion. That must have been a really cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, like prior to getting into hostels, so what I used to do before that was I used to oversee the construction of movie theaters. So I was kind of I was kind of used to the expanding construction and that sort of thing. I'd go in when the shell of the building for the hostel was for the movie theater was up, and then I'd be there until opening, training the staff and that sort of thing, and for a few months afterwards, and move on to the next project kind of thing. So I kind of like that. That's kind of like one of the things I like about USA Hostels. We're expanding, opening these new places, and it wasn't too dissimilar to what I was doing before. So that's part I enjoyed it. Then we kind of stagnated, we kind of stopped growing. And that was one of the reasons I kind of think was getting kind of bored in a sense there. And I wanted to do something on my own.
Sure. And
so what happens right around that time, back in, so I'll back up a little bit. Like I forget what year it was, around 2001 or so. There's a puppy that got abandoned at the hostel in Hollywood. I was just living a couple blocks away, and so I wound up keeping that puppy. But I was living in a studio apartment. I had a studio apartment like right off of Hollywood Highland. I was like, it was just perfect bachelor pad, having time in my life, kind of like, and just enjoying it. Like I knew eventually I needed to find a bigger place or whatever, and grow up kind of thing. But I was having too much fun. But then I got this puppy, and he's growing, and it's like, okay, I can't. This dog needs a yard, kind of thing. So I think, okay, now I'm going to look for a house, and that's right when the prices were exploding, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Home prices were exploding, and so I found a house. It's actually a property in Hollywood and Echo Park. And it was two tiny houses, 550 square feet each, and both in kind of disrepair a little bit, one more than the other. And so I fixed up one. That's the one that I was renting out. And the other one I totally gutted, just brought it to the studs, and then started rebuilding. And I moved into that. And like when I moved in, all I had was a garden hose. So I would go to like Home Depot to take a dump, and I'd go to the hostel to shower kind of thing. And finally, like day 2 or 3, I finally installed the toilet. So at least, that saved me having to go to Home Depot every couple hours or whatever. But anyway, so because of that, I wound up like, having these 2 homes. I eventually finished. And the idea was I just keep living in one of them, renting the rent on one covered the entire mortgage. And, I figured eventually move to a bigger home, but housing prices shot up. And I realized that if I just sold it, I'd have a whole lot of money. I could open like my own hostel somewhere.
Oh, cool.
So that's what happened. So I wound up selling the property, and with that, and that's right when I met my future wife, and we I bought a small tiny RV, and we started traveling around the country looking for a place to open a hostel.
Awesome.
And we traveled like Canada and the U.S. We weren't sure exactly where, because I'm I'm Canadian citizenship as well.
Okay.
So Canada would work also. And just wound up in Philly, to cut the story a little short. And it wasn't really the original plan, but got to Philadelphia, and a friend was showing us around. And like, oh, let's see what our competition would be like in Philadelphia if I did open one here. And there was only one hostel in Center City, and it was called the Bank Street Hostel. So I went to go check it out, and it had a for sale sign on it. Like, kind of for sale by owner kind of thing. So I next day called the number and spoke to the owner, David Herskowitz, and the price was like 1.6 million, which was just in my price range kind of thing. I just kind of had enough for a down payment for that.
Yeah.
So I wound up buying that building. It was like, it wasn't the easiest thing because I really just had just enough money to do that. Like, once the sale, closed on the sale and everything, just suddenly went from Bank Street Hostel to Apple Hostels, and started letting people in. And as we took money, from guests and stuff, that we used that to go buy stuff for the hostel, kind of thing, buy furniture and buy paint and a lot of cleaning detergent or cleaning supplies. It was a pretty dirty hostel. It was a pretty dirty, filthy building when we got it. But yeah, just as money came in, we just spent it on improving the hostel kind of thing, and I just went from there.
Nice. Now, in that journey, were there some other close calls to places like, oh, I almost opened up in Birmingham, Alabama, or whatever, like, were there any other spots that were a close second, or that was
the goal was really Boston. Because it only had the HI, and actually at the time there was the HI hostel. I forgot what street it was, but the old HI hostel, and it also had a summertime HI hostel that they leased out like student housing, and had a second hostel, and that was it. And I knew Boston was a big market, and I was like, if I could get into that, that'd be good. And we spent like all summer, like all of August and September and into the beginning of October there. Like we parked the RV at it was a state park with a campground right in the corner of like right before the New Hampshire border in Massachusetts, Salisbury Beach, I think it was. And and so we go into Boston almost every day looking at properties and stuff, but it was just like you needed a lot of money to do something, and because didn't really have a proper kind of licensing for that that kind of category for hostels and stuff, and anyway, so it would have been a huge gamble, and we couldn't really find anything there. So then it started getting cold, and was like, okay, well, let's move on. Next stop is Philadelphia. Let's see what's there, kind of thing. And
then it worked out. And what year was that in?
So that was 2007.
Okay, cool. So 2007, and then
we actually opened, June of 2008 is when we opened. Actually bought closed the sale on the hostel and the building in Philadelphia.
In the building, tell us a bit about the building. Like, what's the building like? Is it like an old historic building, or?
Yeah, so I mean, it used to be a nightclub back in the day. I mean, originally, I mean, we don't know how old the building is. The city lost the records for that. It's actually so. So the building I bought was originally two buildings, and there was and one is like really old, and one is like really really old. The other one's really old, and at some point they were combined to make a nightclub. But they were both like, I think one might have been a residential, and one was definitely industrial, small industrial thing. But it was turned into a nightclub sometime in the late 60s or early 70s. And like I saw the historical photos of it. It was a bunch of different nightclubs during the 70s. And at one point it was called it was a Circus Maximus, and their tagline on the sign outside was "Dance your ass off." I thought it was awesome. And then at one point it was owned and operated by a very well known drag queen at the time back in the 70s. And it bugs me, I can't remember her name now. But I mean, she hung with the likes of like David Bowie and stuff like that, and somebody actually recently wrote a book about her and the club and everything. And he came around and took pictures of what it looks like now, kind of thing. And showed
cool.
a box where it said DJ booth or whatever. Yeah, so at one point it was a nightclub, and then in '92, the last thing it was called was Cheetahs, and then that's when it closed and it was for sale, and David Herskowitz bought it and turned it into a hostel back in 1992. His dad was a contractor, so his dad kind of did all the work and everything, and turned it into a hostel. And then and that's when I came around in 2007 and saw it and put an offer on it, and then closed on it finally in June of 2008.
Awesome. And where does the HI affiliate? Like, were you in? You were in HI at some point. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So somehow, again, this was a very filthy hostel, but somehow David Herskowitz managed to get a HI affiliate license. So he affiliated himself with the Hostel International somehow. I don't know how he did it. And I didn't have any interest really in being part of HI, to be honest, at the time. And because they didn't allow alcohol back then. So again, this is going back a few years, but back, way back when they didn't, HI didn't allow alcohol whatsoever in the hostels. And I was all about having free drinks and stuff like that. I thought it was a big part of hosteling, having a good time, having a drink kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it came with the license. So when I bought it, I already had the license. So I talked to Aaron at HI and said, "Hey, I'm going to be the new owner." And he's like, "Yeah, it looks great." He said, "It already has the license. You don't need to reapply. You just need to keep submitting to the inspections they do yearly, kind of thing. And if you pass, you're fine." So it's like, okay, great. And I figured, when they find out that I'm having, free drink nights and stuff like that they're going to just take the license away and whatever. So maybe I'll have that HI license for a year or less or whatever, but whatever. At least I'll be listed on the HI website and their, posters and stuff, and can put my brochures. Remember when we did brochures?
The old rack card.
So I could put my brochures at HI New York and HI DC and stuff. So I was like, okay, great. So at least I can do that for a year, and, but right around that time, they created a test pilot program, to test out having alcohol themed, events or whatever. So that's how I got away with, so I could have these, free beer nights and stuff like that. And still keep the HI license. So I wound up staying an HI affiliate for many years until they disbanded that program a couple of years ago. And it was great. I really actually wound up really liking being part of HI. They were some good, good support, and again, it was good to be part of that kind of chain of hostels.
What did you find was the most benefits for being a part of HI back then? What did they do that you felt there was value?
I mean, they had annual meetings, so you're just kind of not too different from the North American Hostel Association, conferences that we're doing yearly now, kind of thing. So it benefit to be speakers and stuff like that, and so you learn a bit from that. You meet other hostel owner Jim from Portland and everything, and that's how I got to know Jim. It was kind of weird because we live almost identical lives, Jim and I, because we both have German wives. We both expanded our hostel the exact same year. We both, our last kids were both born the same year. and I was on a HI conference call with Jim and a bunch of HI people and stuff, and they're like, I didn't realize Jim and actually just had his kid. They're like, "Oh, Jim, you had your baby." Yeah, like, "Oh, what's his name?" It's like, he's like, "Yeah, Nicholas." I'm like, "Fuck." Like,
No
God
way.
damn it, that's what we're naming my son.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's too funny.
not only have a kid the same year, we also named him the same year.
It's great on the opposite coast. I love it.
So it's like everything we do, it's like the same.
Was there a big jump you noticed from working with David at USA Hostels and kind of being, opening up the spots, but never being your own solo owner? What was like a lesson learned, or what kind of reality checks did you find when it's like, okay, now it's all my business and it's all up to me to make this happen? Was there any?
It's certainly a lot nicer when you're playing with someone else's money.
Easier, yeah, less stressful for sure.
Yeah, it was extremely, extremely stressful. Like I said, just that purchase was a couple of times I thought it was going to go through. We were already taking bookings, and we already had a phone. Like we had a toll-free number already going to my cell phone, kind of thing. At one point, like I got some bad news. It looked like the loan was not going to go through, and I got a phone call, somebody trying to make a reservation. I'm like, just call the hostel number, this Bank Street Hostel, make a reservation there, kind of thing. I was like so depressed and everything, but whatever happened, fixed it, and it of course didn't go through. But so many times it looked like it was not gonna happen. And then when we expanded, so 2000. So we were right across from another nightclub. So that, like I said, the building I had was a hostel before as a nightclub. It was a nightclub before as a hostel, but we were still right across from another nightclub, and it was a horrible nightclub. It was just so noisy, and it was actually one of the few. There was only 2 nightclubs in Philadelphia which had allowed underage kids in there. So it had like. On the upper floors, it was like 21 and over. On the lower floors, under 21. So we had all kinds of like kids going in there and stuff. And it was just like, it was kind of a rough crowd, and it was noisy, especially when it emptied at 2 a.m. kind of thing. And that's when everyone's sleeping, and then the streets full of people and being loud. So our reviews were a lot like, great hostel, but right across from a lousy nightclub. And anyway, so, the owner of that building approached me and said, "Would you like to expand into this hostel? I'm thinking of like getting rid of the nightclub. Would you be interested in this building?" And like, yeah, if it gets rid of the nightclub for sure. Even though wasn't like we're bursting at the seams, needed to more space, but I just wanted to I figured if we get rid of that nightclub, it might help things too. So that's we wound up expanding to that. So that it used to be a nightclub, and that we turned that into the hostel, more hostel. Richard Gere actually filmed a scene in one of his movies in that nightclub. It was called Club
Cotton Club.
Club 27.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Club
Richard
27.
Gere. Wow. All right.
Yeah. So he filmed a scene in what is now our room 302. So we call that our Richard Gere room.
I love it.
It wasn't a room at the time at all. It was like, but basically where that scene was filmed is what is now room 302. So we call it our Richard Gere room.
Nice.
And when he was doing that scene, he asked the owner of the club, is this the old 5 spot? Because that street, Bank Street that we're on, used to be back in the 70s and 80s, used to be like those are the 3 clubs that people always went to. Including Richard Gere, because he remembered, partying there back in the day. And so the 5 spot was a different nightclub that was a little down the street that burned down in 2006 or 2007. So Richard Gere is kind of familiar with that. But yeah, it used to be, these 3 nightclubs, and now 2 of them are hostels. One of them is gone now, but
it's amazing how the nightclub scene, I don't know if it's like that in Philly, but out in California, especially in San Diego, like the Traveler, they just don't drink like they used to. Even when we started, 13 years ago, you were saying like it was essential to have like drinking almost every night to get those, to entertain the crowd. And today it's such a different world.
Yeah, you mean in the hostel itself, or
We feel, yeah, in the hostel, we feel there's less,
In the
yeah,
hostel, yeah.
yeah. I remember reading somebody's comment on one of these group chats or whatever about like it's like, hey, you guys noticing that people aren't really participating as much anymore and that sort of thing. And yeah, I can say yeah, you're right. I think it does seem a bit like that. Because I remember like we'd put a case of beer out and we'd get complaints like, oh, they're not putting enough beer out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now I put smaller cases out and they're not finishing them like sometimes,
Yeah, no, it's definitely a noticeable trend of, I remember we used to actively try to make certain nights non-alcohol nights. Like, we can't be doing this every night, this is too much. Let's try to have a yoga night or something different. And now it's completely opposite, where I feel like they're more in tune with the wellness lifestyle, where if you have a yoga class every night, that's going to be full. But beer pong, you might have a hard time with, where before I'd be like hiding the beer pong table so they would stop fucking playing just for a night. So it's such a difference and change. Now, you expanded across the street, and that's something that for listeners out there, especially people that might be thinking expanding, I think a lot of times people think you've got to go to a different city, a different spot. And in our experience, I love the expansion within the city because it's so much easier to maintain yourself. So we opened up a location in San Diego and Pacific Beach, and then we opened one up in Mission Beach. And someone was asking me, why would you do one so close? Like, why not take a skateboard ride down and check on your other spot? You don't have to hop on a bloody plane, So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, as you have a unique position of, you were there at USA Hostels and you saw this expansion happen. And David at USA Hostels, unless I think I'm correct, he was like the first privately owned hostel that tried to expand to that number or to that size.
Well, there was Banana Bungalow back.
Banana Bungalow was another one.
But I think they maxed out at 3. I think so. They had San Diego and Hawaii and
yeah. And then we've seen Selena, which was a recent one that really tried to take all of this venture capital money and then had all this pressure to open up a bunch of spots. And very quickly, I feel like they proved that hostels are a unique business, in my opinion, where the chain doesn't work, because you have to become so cookie cutter and so corporate by the textbook of like a hotel expansion that you lose all of that special sauce and that vibe. That is what create the characters, what creates a hostel and makes it separate from a hotel. We at ITH are often struggling with that now, of like, we've got to slow down because we're seeing that precipice of, oh man, we're going to have to start getting so corporate and so cookie cutter to maintain all these locations that we're going to lose what makes us special. In your opinion, having that experience at USA Hostels, running your own shop for many years afterwards, what do you feel like is the max size that one could expect to be able to expand location-wise before running into those problems? Or maybe what are your insights into why places like a Selena or other hotel style chains haven't been able to successfully ramp up, like, oh, I've got 50 hostels and they all run in that mom and pop fashion? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's just the sheer number of like employees that you have and everything. I think like they get into human resources and stuff. That was also something that was happening at USA Hostels, was we had so many employees, and then there's certain laws you have to abide by when you surpass so many employees and stuff. Then it's a lot of HR, and that's not fun.
No, right? Yeah.
That's not what I got into hostels for.
Yeah.
Work and that. So yeah, that's I don't think it really necessarily affects each hostel. It's you can still have it run a certain way and whatever. It's just really, I think it does get very corporate, and then it's just not as fun. You
feel that top down, right? People up top start not having fun, and then it flows downward to the guest experience of like, oh, this doesn't feel the same. You're like, oh, well, I'm on a phone with a lawyer all day long. Now it's not the same. Now, how about the change of the guest demographic. This is another one that I love to speak with people who have been in the industry as long as Bob and I have been, and even longer in your case, so that you've got a better vantage point. When we first started 15 years ago, it was, 80% of the hostel was international. And then like there was like 20% Americans that you would let in on the exception, but they were all actual backpackers. And that's why you let them in, because you're like, okay, you just came from Asia after a backpacking tour. You know what's going on here. You appreciate it. You get it. You're going to fit in fine. But that was like a very select, exclusive crew that you would let through the doors, and most other Americans were just turned away. And a lot of hostels, even back then, just didn't even take Americans at all. Now, given our situation with pandemics and political issues of, we're not too popular right now internationally, and then the opening up to the American guest, what is some big differences you have noticed in that change of the guest demographic over the years?
Yeah, well, I mean, until very recently, it really hasn't changed that much in Philadelphia.
Okay.
We were still always getting, kind of 85% foreign travelers, but that has changed the past couple years. I mean,
but just the past couple.
Pandemic, but also this year, especially, of course, with what's going on with Trump.
Yeah. Yes.
So in Philadelphia, I didn't really see it that much. There was always the same thing. There was like certain times a year we'd get more Americans, and like, and for me, it was we always had just a boundary, kind of thing. It was 75 miles originally. You had to prove that you live more than 75 miles from Philadelphia, either foreign passport or an ID with an address that's more than 75 miles away, and that worked well, kind of thing. Like I don't think, I mean, I always had a saying that like not every American is a problem, but every problem is an American. So
you nailed it.
Yeah. And it's not because they're American. Like if I was in Canada or Australia, anywhere, the same thing. It'd be like any locals, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing against Americans. It's just locals in general, no matter where you are, kind of thing. And so I always had that. I had that 75-mile radius, and that worked well. And I just said we were pretty firm on that, and we're very firm on that. And because I figured we're not discriminating as long as we keep, apply that to everybody, kind of thing. So we had a fair amount of Americans, especially when there's big conferences in Philadelphia. We get a lot of conference goers and stuff. So there were weeks where we'd be 40-50% American, but generally in the summer and that sort of thing would be 80-85% foreign travelers. But I always wondered about that radius, how important that was, the 75 radius. So during the pandemic, at the start of it in March of 2020, when they shut the border, and then suddenly everyone's canceling, and I'd never seen it before. The printout for the reservations we got in the past 24 hours, empty, not a single reservation. And when you see that, you, as a business owner, you panic. It's like, well, wow, how am I going to stay in business? This is before they announced, PPP and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, how are we going to stay in business? So so I'm like brainstorming with the staff and everything, and like, or maybe we can get some students to, who are still in Philadelphia, and and whatever, and house them, and so let's get rid of the 75-mile radius and let anybody stay. We have no choice now,
Okay.
And so we did that, and we still had some regular guests, like Europeans that hadn't gotten their flight home yet. They're still in the country, hadn't just made their way home yet. So we still had women from England and France and whatnot, and so anyway, so within a day of opening up to anybody can check in, we got like locals checking in, and they're going up to the women and saying, hey, nice, I can't repeat the word that they use, but nice body part, baby. And like, no, I'd rather run a business than deal with this. No. So I changed it to 40 miles. So I go, well, let's narrowed him
Fine.
in. I think so. I made it 40 miles, but we weren't getting anybody. Still weren't getting anybody. So then we wound up closing anyways. For a couple of months, and then reopened, and then we kept that 40-mile radius thing, and we've been at 40 miles ever since, and that seems to be fine. For no reason, that 40 seems to work. So like one time, a woman made a reservation, and I checked to see what her distance was, and I looked at the time instead of the miles by mistake. So it said like 39. I thought miles was 39 minutes away. Okay. And it was actually, she was about, 32 miles, 35 miles away kind of thing. So since I had already told her she could stay because I looked at it wrong, I let her check in. Within 5 minutes, we had to kick her out because she'd insulted half our guests and everything. So I think that 40 miles is about right. It seems like, anything within 40 is like bad news.
Yeah.
And just not, yeah. So, definitely affects the atmosphere in the hostel.
It's so interesting in our business, that element in playing with that, and how it can really affect the vibe of the house. And I can recall when we were opening up a location and someone was asking me like, what are you going to do to get the locals involved, to get the word out there? And I was like, wow, what a unique business. We don't have any local marketing, like we actually don't allow the locals in here, and the person's looking at me like, what the fuck? What are you running? And I was like, yeah, I can see how that must sound so bizarre, but like, no, there is no local marketing. And like, there's actually a local defense.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no, I've got the same thing. People approach me about advertising and local news magazine, whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't want the local stuff.
And it's so interesting, Mark, because I don't know if you recall this, but we were at I think it was called the American Hostel Conference in Charleston, South Carolina. They had it for a few years. Vicky would run it.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever heard of it. You were in the room, and amongst all these hostels, they're like, has anyone thought about this, pandemic or disease in China? Or I had a reservation canceled because of it. Has anyone else had any issues? Does anyone think it's going to... I remember everyone in the room being like, I don't know what this guy's talking about,
Yeah, but that was been... Since I've been in hostels, that has been like running hostels, like for USA Hostels, it was always my biggest fear was a pandemic. And
you were on it, man. You were on it.
I told Maria, the owner of San Diego, she was with me at USA Hostels. I told her one time, and I think maybe there was a bird flu or talk about maybe possible bird flu, and I'm like, Maria, this might be it. Like, this is like, I'm really worried about a pandemic. She's that's ridiculous or whatever. I was like, but I always knew like a pandemic would be like serious trouble for it. You know what? I just didn't realize how bad it was, because if it really only affected hostels, we'd all be closed. What I mean? We'd be out of business. But because it affected so many businesses, like not just hostels, then we had like access to PPP money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if it hadn't been as far-reaching or as impactful.
It's true. We all would have went down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always on my mind. Always.
Now I got to ask you, but you brought up Maria. Now Maria was, by the time we got to USA Hostel, she was in your job. So you were like the number 2 for many years for David. And then when you left, she became your position. And that's when we went there and worked there as young pups. But what was Maria like when she was a young pup when you first met her? That was, I mean, this is gold. What? Give us something.
No, I mean, so I interviewed Maria with Catherine, who was one of our GMs at the time. And Catherine didn't like her. Catherine's like, and I'm like, no, I like Maria. But yeah, no, Maria was, Maria, so she's like, she hasn't changed. She's always been the same, just, very strong woman, very intelligent, very, very tough, she's not gonna,
foxy as ever.
Yeah. There's really nothing that you don't know about Maria, like
it's
Maria.
all been the same. Yeah, you get Maria.
It's always been the same.
Yeah,
Always been
yeah.
great.
She always spoke very highly of you. So it's cool to have gotten to know you over the years
So you've
afterwards.
never seen Maria when she's had a few drinks?
Oh yeah, we have.
Now, and then back to the HI affiliate program, just before we wrap up, I was curious to hear more about this from you, as we touched a little bit about it before. Why did that go away?
So their lawyers told them they needed to make it go away. They were afraid
the liability of it.
of liability.
Okay.
And also just because coming out of the pandemic, they had to cut a lot of jobs, including the person whose job was to go around and audit all the hostels.
Okay.
A lot of work with all there was, I think, just as many or more affiliate hostels than actual HI hostels. So
yeah.
So it's just because they had to reduce manpower, but also the lawyer said it's too much of a liability.
Yeah, it seemed like they out of everyone, it seemed like they took the hardest hit through the pandemic, maybe because of their size. It's hard to keep a beast like that afloat to navigate through that.
It's just bad timing. I mean, me too. I just expanded. If you told me there's going to be a pandemic in 2 years, because that was 2017.
Yeah,
open up, and then it was a few years later. So I was just starting to break, kind of make some money, on this expansion kind of thing. Like I said, we weren't bursting at the seams at the time, so we didn't really, but we're just started, kind of on a roll, and then the pandemic happened, and and now I'm carrying 2 buildings through a pandemic instead of 1.
Yeah.
So the bigger you are, the harder it's going to be.
Yep.
So
was there a moment in your time running Apple or at USA Hostels where you felt like it's the hostels are firing on all cylinders, and kind of why? Like maybe some advice you could give to other hostel owners from when, I don't know, maybe a year that it was working the best, or a strategy you felt it was working the best, or something then that you chase. Like, what do you try to chase to get it your hostel to perform the best?
I mean, these days it's really, it's a lot. Now it's it's a little harder just because of the economic environment, kind of thing, and travelers not coming. Back in the day, it seemed like you didn't really have to do that. I mean, originally it was a lot of work because you had to send a brochure. We were mailing brochures to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Hawaii, the Cook Islands, and then all across the United States, and print advertising, and and all these things are gone now. The print advertising doesn't exist anymore. We don't do brochures anymore. No one would put them up if you mailed them to them. So it's a lot easier now. You just kind of rely on on Hostel and Booking.com and Expedia and all those guys. But for me, it's just making sure I got a good product and got good reviews, and just hope people come. That's kind of thing. So it's it's the numbers that keep going down. At least in Philadelphia, I don't know what it is like everywhere else, but in Philadelphia, our numbers keep going. The number of people keeps going down. We were finally doing really well last year, like in September, October. We're finally surpassing 2019, numbers.
Oh, good.
As far as number of people, we kind of raised our rates, so we weren't really going down in revenue per se, but because we were able to raise our rates, we kind of stayed pretty steady. But it was finally September and October last year, in November, where we're actually number of people was going up, kind of thing. Great, finally, it's good, kind of thing. But then Trump happened, and
that turned everything off. Yeah.
So now it's back to we're down. We're down 20%, close to 20% in August. We're down almost 20% in September. October probably gonna be down 25%. Seems to be getting worse, kind of thing. So
yeah, we need those international travelers to come back.
Yeah. So I mean, what saved us? We would have been, worse off if we had FIFA. We had a bunch of FIFA club matches. We had 8 of them. So that saved our June and beginning of July. Because we had a good February because the Eagles won, so we had the Eagles parade.
Nice.
The Eagles, so we had February did pretty well because the Eagles, and also because nothing much had been affected yet by Trump yet. So February was still really, really good for February. And March wasn't too bad, but in Philadelphia, though, the hotels had already been we're down in March, we're down 15, 20%. We were somehow kind of breaking even. So we're below what we probably would have been. But the hotels are already being affected by kind of people boycotting the United States and whatnot. And then, we did okay in April just because of just things going on in the city. But then FIFA really helped us in June because June started off pretty slow. And then we had FIFA games and we picked up and we're had a really big June because of FIFA. And then we had a July 4th game. So it was big, semifinal or whatever. So it was big. And, but then suddenly last half of June, just nobody kind of thing was dead. And then August, we just get lots of camp counselors every year. So that didn't change because they still came and worked at the camps. We had tons of people from England, from the UK coming to work at the camps on the East Coast. So we get tons of camp counselors. So thank God for that because we were down, 15%, 17% in August, but we would have been down way more if it wasn't for the camp counselors.
Good markets and connecting with events. Great strategies there.
Yeah, certain things that have helped us, but because it could have been a lot worse. And so we'll see how it goes going forward, but it's not looking great.
Yeah, well, that was actually kind of to close things out. I was curious to see what your thoughts are.
On a depressing note.
Yeah. But where do
I'm going out of business, people. Bye.
What do you see in your thoughts, the industry in the next coming years? How do you, for the remainder of the Trump administration, pretty much is kind of on the. What do you think it's just going to stay in its stagnated place that it's in, or could it conceivably continue to get worse? What are your thoughts? Everyone has a different opinion.
I mean, it's not going to get much better. The best I can hope for is not getting much worse, I think. It depends on, they're talking about requiring a $5,000 to $15,000 deposit to the country. It's that's, if they implement that, I don't know what's, we're already struggling without that, kind of thing. And, so I don't know. I would not expand right now.
It's interesting times for sure. And we all have to kind of band together and navigate through the best we can. Will you be attending the North American Hostel Association conference in Montreal in April 2026?
I'm from Montreal. Yeah, I'd love to go, but I mean, I had to lay off my managers in August. So now I'm running everything myself. So we're low staff. It's just me now as far as managing the place. So it's hard to get away. I'm going up to Canada Halloween weekend for my dad's 90th birthday.
Cool.
So I can get away for a few days. We'll see. This will be a good test. If I can get, if I come back and the hostel's still standing, then maybe I can do it again in April. When is it? April or May?
April. I think it's
28th of April.
Oh, it's 28th of April. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw James Lane from the what do you call it? Hostel in West Virginia, Harper's Ferry. Yesterday, and he was talking about. I think it's April 28th, and. So anyway, let's go. My memory's not going. But I'm hoping to go. But it's just really hard for me now to get away from here. Not just that, I'm just trying to also cut all expenses.
Yeah.
So it's also the cost of going and stuff I have to think about. So, we'll see. But I'm hoping to. I was when they said Montreal, I was oh man, that sucks. I don't know if I can go.
No, but that's good. But in that right there, that is good advice for other hostel owners out there listening of how to navigate. And one of the best ways is to tighten the belt and get ahead of your expenses. And even though sometimes it's sad of letting people go, but we did the same thing of when the pandemic hit, we really started to tighten the belt and get rid of accessory, things and whatnot. And I used to have a beachfront apartment and a club membership to every club in town, and now I don't anymore. And people ask like, when are you getting back your beachfront apartment? Probably under the next administration.
Yeah. Yeah, if we survive until then.
So, but good advice, keep it thin as we move forward. And yeah, but thanks so much, Marc, for joining us on the podcast. And we hope to see you in April up in Montreal, so you can keep me out of trouble when I do get into trouble up there. But if not, keep trucking out there in Philly.
All right, we'll do. And yeah, thanks for having me, and great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks,
All right.
Marc. Have a good day. Bye.
All right.